sovereignty. How we view sovereign is we're going to go around the table and talk about sovereign. The court case is coming up, and we acted sovereign on a challenge of the feds and the province. So now we have to discuss that. How are we going to conduct ourselves as sovereign? But I've explained sovereignty over and over to a lot of people. And Washington's, their idea and the way we see sovereignty is different from the Dakota, how we see sovereignty. But it all goes back to the ceremonies and the ceremony songs that we sing. The statements are in there. So that's what we'll be discussing, and we'll be discussing the court case. So we'll all have an input, and we'll see where we go from there. So with that, I'm going to ask my shishi, Sam, to say the Ochiki.
Ochiki emashi, Ochiki today. Oichi the mokoti macha diga, the koti macha de heche. If there Ochiki evoiga, Ochapika, koti Ochaki. Oto Nisha, Wakipe, Ochiki, Oto country. Okuya hito imachicha Oshika, Mechika. Oda Mankota Oshia, Mani Unka. O Aktaito Kede. Ochiki Kahwashi Boka, Oshia Hinish. Yapokish Nehochi, Donka, or Honamicha. O Tampito Stene Mokiapi, Sajiki here. Umachake Moksha, down you have money, Oshiki, Chashmotka. O Dena, it's just a week, Unichi, you have eat a couple. O Hana Tokataki, you have. Otaki, then Takojaki, then you have money, Donka, Ako stay Archie. Ako stay on the cup there, or not. Was Agia Tokataki, you have a wing, the Mushuki, or I am Mitaki open push or English. Onum Kitchen Comport the now. Taki Wonki, the cup in the now, or Spectre. Tokataki or Shaggy, or Mitaki was.
Okay, Mitaki, okay, this one. Ona, Omnichi, Kede. Yok, don't come. Oh, we show you no monster, not the court of one. So just, no, there was a problem. No. Okay. We call this meeting, we we've been asking to meet and discuss our court case. But, you know, originally, we challenged the feds first, and we filed a court case against them, and they've been trying to stall and put the case in abeyance. So we told them, go ahead, but we said we don't want to put the case in abeyance. We want to go to court. But somehow the lawyer we had put it in abeyance without letting us know that he was going to put it in abeyance. And we found out later that it was put in abeyance. And so, in order to force the Canada to act on the case with the Dakota, we put notice on the feds and the province that since the Dakota is a non-treaty to Canada, that our title, still our title, our rights are still intact, our privileges are still intact. For that reason, we put them on notice that we were going to do a casino, a sovereign casino. And at the same time, we talked to the Mohawks about selling cigarettes. And they agreed. And the casino was supposed to go first, but somehow the tobacco got first. And that was the challenge to the government, that if we're non-treaty to Canada, our first law still stands. Our first law is the laws we lived under before the arrival of the Europeans. And that's my argument with the government and the courts. And if we're not treaty to Canada, well then we're still free as people on our own land. So we took that stand that we'd be selling cigarettes under our own laws, and we put our tobacco laws in place. We bought that piece of property with the building on it for $1. We did not use Chanuko band funds or Dakota Place band funds. I was asked by the government, how did you buy that? Well, I was walking down the street in Verdun, and I found this loony, and I kept it for a month. Nobody claimed it. Nobody said they lost the loony. So waited for a month, and nobody claimed it, so it's mine now. So I used that loaning, not government fund. I used that to buy that property, the building. So legally, it's ours, and we didn't use land funds. So we talked to the Mohawks and made a deal with them and started selling cigarettes. And we told them that that property goes back to Dakota territory. And you see that map, that's what we're referring to. Because we don't have a treaty with Canada, our territory is still our territory. That's the challenge. So we did that. And the province did a lot of scare tactics. They came and threatened us that they would charge us. But they came and raided and took whatever is on the shelf. They probably thought we were dumb that we were going to put everything in there, but we didn't. We just so much. And they took that, and they didn't charge us. They did that 3 times. And the 4th one, they started laying charges. And they charged me. Individually. They didn't want to charge the nation. They wanted to charge us individually. And they kept threatening that they would put us in jail. So we put the signs at the shop. And then after that, we quit raiding. And then we went to court May 30th in Winnipeg. They called up Chief Smoke, but Chief Smoke wasn't there. They called me up. And they told me to approach. So I took a few steps and I stopped there. And the judge said, Mr. Brown, would you please enter the court? And I said, I wish not to enter your court. Okay. Why? Well, I said, the province sitting right here, I said, the province. I asked them to provide a legal documentation that states Dakota would be under provincial jurisdiction. They haven't done that yet. But if they did, I said, we would follow it. But they haven't done that. Therefore, I do not recognize your court. And I'm going to leave. And she asked me, you're not going to stay for the proceeding? No. I do not recognize your court. Okay, she said, and she started calling the other ones up. And they all said, go with the chief. So we all walked out. And I had people in there that were going to stay there as we walk out, and they're going to listen. And the province pleaded with the judge, grant us that permanent injunction so we can shut down all First Nation tobacco across Canada. judge said that she couldn't do that. Because what if the Dakota wins? We'll all be sued, including myself. So the province said, well, we have full jurisdictions on all reserves in Canada. And then the judge said, well, explain how you have full jurisdictions. I thought the feds have the jurisdiction over First Nations. Well, the reserves, we have agreements with the reserves about the tax, past tax. The First Nations don't produce their card not to pay PST, GST anymore. So therefore they agree to be taxpayers. But also all the programs that's on the reserves, it all has the provincial regulations attached to it. So therefore, we have full jurisdictions in all reserves. And the ones that were in there, that court that heard that, they were upset. Even the Grand Chief of their Nippenak was there. And he came out and he was mad. Where's all the chiefs, he said. My chiefs, he said. We should be having an emergency meeting right now over this, he said. They're all sleeping, he said. I need a mandate from the chiefs, he said. And I don't think I'll get it. This is something we need to deal with right now. So the question to that one is what's the feds going to do? That the feds send it. It provides funding to the reserves. Are you going to cut it off? Or are they going to direct it to the province? Those are the questions that everybody's asking. But the thing is, for us, we're claiming sovereignty. You know, you look back, the history of the Dakota, they haven't surrendered. Today, 2012, still haven't surrendered. And I'm not about to surrender to the province or to the feds, even though I'm in court with the feds, and I'm in court with the province. But the thing is, you know, a lot of people said, oh, those guys are going to go to jail right now. They're going to get arrested. But they haven't. On August 9th, we're invited in Winnipeg, me and Chief Smoke, and we got there, and I let them speak. I didn't want to say anything until they're done. But they said, what they have to say, and then they said, well, we invited you chiefs here to let you know that we're gonna throw you guys in jail now. So that's when I spoke up. I said, well, throw me in jail right now then. I said, that's exactly what we want. I said, we want to be charged, we want to be thrown in jail. then things will be addressed. I said. Because you throw us in jail, the whole world's going to know what you guys are doing. Then they got mad. And on the what are you guys doing this for? He said. Why are you doing this? Well, so there's life and death crisis at home, I said. People are facing several types of cancer, several types of heart disease, lung diseases, several types of diabetes, liver, kidney diseases, I said. Obesity, malnourishment. All because of that $225 a person has to live off. Each month, a person gets $225 to live off. For you guys, that's 2 meals, I said. For Stephen Hopper, that's breakfast, I said. And they still didn't understand. Well, how's that? At $225. Well, $225, they have to stretch it out to 1 month, I said. They have to buy garbage food, I said, that causes cancer, lung diseases, heart disease, liver, kidney. They eat junk, I said. The housing, all mold, I said. So we're in a life and death crisis, I said. So you as justice people, the RCMP, I said, you're justice. Are you going to stop us from trying to survive? And if you do, you're not justice. So if you guys want to throw us in jail, do it then. I'd like to go to jail right now, I said. And then they told us, well, that's the issue, that your issue, what the government says. But you know why that $225 is like that, I said? It's because in 1984, the federal government funded all the reserves adequately and tapped it. So anybody that was born after that tap are not in that funding, but they're using it, they're living off of that tap funding. So if you come to my community and look at who's all in that tap funding and who's not, the population doubled in my community. And that funding is not enough to go around. But my question is, First Nations are wards, federal government is the trustee. I said, what does the trustee do here? I said, neglected the wards for 30 years now. These issues have to be addressed. I said, that's what we're trying to address. Well, then you have to talk to the province and see what you can negotiate with. I don't think there's any negotiating that can be done. Just have to fix things. Fix the problem. You can't fix the problem because you can't undo that cap funding unless you go through the legislation and cabinet to do that. And that's how it started. But sovereignty is what the province does not want to deal with, but it's on the table right now in the court.
Yeah, I'll close this.
So the way I see sovereignty, if you're sovereign, you have land. You live on your land. You have your own laws. You have your own language. And you have your own people. You have your own creator that guides you. You're a nation. You're sovereign. And that's what it's about. For me, that's what it's about. That's how I see it. And I go to a lot of ceremonies. I go to a lot of sweats. You know, a lot of people sing these ceremonies, but they don't pay attention to the ceremony, the statement of the ceremony songs. Last night, we had a sweat in Sioux Valley, and I went. The first song that was sung, it touched on that, sovereignty. And these are the things we need to understand. I'd like to understand. I felt better. I felt strong after that. But, you know, hereditary chiefs, they need to come back, because that's sovereign right there. Me as an Indian agent, chief and council, I represent the federal government. They pay me to be that, to act on their behalf. Nowhere it doesn't say that I represent the Dakota, I represent the federal government. So I wear two hats. I'm an inherent leader of my people, but also I'm working as a chief under the Indian Act. But if I'm going to be sovereign, I got to quit working for the federal government. And these are the issues I have. And I like to, that's my time, Craig, talk about the court that we're going to be going to in November 19th. And what the court is saying. We had lawyers. We fired the first lawyer. We got the second one. Oh yeah. And we showed them our documents. And we told them we're not Indians, we're Dakota. And the first thing he did was he pushed aside all our documents and trying to make us into Indians again. So we fired him. And we got another one. And he said the same thing, hey, I'm the one, he said, I'm the one that's going to take your case and win your case. And we told him we don't be Indians, we're Dakota. trying to take us as Indians again, trying to use the Indianness on us. So we fired him. And now we don't have a lawyer. But that's good, because if we use a lawyer, we'll be in their system. Because we represent ourselves, we're not in their system. They can't have jurisdiction over us. And these are the things that we experienced and understood. So with that, I want to leave it to my Tanashi next, and we can go from there, because I have a lot of things, a lot more to say, but we need to talk about this court thing, and then we'll go into the solving after that. So with that, Tanashi, kind of sleep myself.
November 19, the province wants us to prepare a report, a submission, how it is that we have sovereignty. And there's a fellow by the name of Bartley Harris. He's a lawyer. A lawyer in that he's got his degree to be a lawyer, but in order to practice law in Canada, you have to approach what they call the bar, the Canadian Bar Association. And when you approach the bar, you swear an oath of allegiance to Canada. You swear an oath of allegiance to Canada, and you have to uphold the Canadian Constitution. All these lawyers, what Tosh was saying about these lawyers, when they say they're going to take our case, yeah, we understand you want to be with Indians, so they go. And then they come back again and try to meet with them. Your rights are protected under the Canadian Constitution, Section 35. Aboriginal, you're protected. We're not protected by that. And so, what Haji said was true. We fired all these lawyers, Canadian lawyers. A funny thing happened when we did that. They gave us the brown paper package about that thick. There's binders in there. All the evidence they collected against us. And even had a binder there. It said the possible defenses that we're going to use, how they're going to beat us. We call them intimidation packages. So I sat up till about 2 o'clock in the morning going through these things and reading them. All the cases that we ever used against us started right from what they call the Sparrow case in BC. This native BC doesn't have they don't have treaties in Canada over there. And they're only supposed to use a certain size net. When they're bigger than that, so they can only use it. And they beat them. They were using a Canadian lawyer again and fighting as an Aboriginal under Canadian Constitution. So I was reading all through those things, all the tobacco cases that they went through, everything. And they all go back to this Aboriginal land. As an Aboriginal, you're protected. Canadian Constitution protects you, you say. And yet nobody's ever won a case. And that's why we talk the way Tonti talks. We're not Indians, we're not Aboriginals, First Nations, Indigenous, all these words that they can use. It means, when they talk about sovereignty, if we went as a group, if we went to a different country, and we put our flag on there and we said, this is our land, we're sovereign here. The only way we can do that is if there's nobody living there. When you look at all these court cases, these court documents, there's one there, it has the use of word, it's called sovereignty integrity. So I looked that up, you know, on the internet. So back in 18, there was what they call the 30-year war. And back then, that was the royal families. They had control of the land. So they got into this big fight in Europe, and they called it the Peace of Westphalia, where they signed all these agreements. And from there, they said sovereignty triumphs over empire. And from there, that's where they made all these rules of sovereignty. So when you go by those rules that they made, this is their law. It has nothing to do with us. This is their law. When they came over to North America, the only way they could have sovereignty is if there was nobody living here. And yet we were living here. So how do they have sovereignty? Well, what they do is they put us into Aboriginal. They put us as Indian, First Nations, Indigenous. They call us all these things, take away our identity as people. There are a lot of the nations in North America, they agree with this. They like this word Indian. And yet it's that word that's killing us. So when these lawyers, when they say your rights are protected with Aboriginals, they're saying animals. And people get they get offended when you say that. This past weekend, I went to a meeting at South Government meeting in Sioux Valley. And my sister told the lawyer for Sioux Valley, you know where that 6162 classification from? Does everybody know what that means, that 6162? That's how the Canadian government classifies Indians. If you're 6'1", that means both of your parents are Indians, according to the Indian Act. If your dad or your mom is non-native or a native from the States, because the Canadian government doesn't recognize native people in the States, then you're listed as a 6'2", meaning you're half-breed. If your kid marries a non-native person or a native from the States, then your kid loses its status. That 6162 classification, that's how they classify cattle. Purebred cattle. That's how they classify them. That's what she told the lawyer. The lawyer didn't even bat an eye, he just started talking. Talked to the INAC people, told them the same thing. They just keep on talking. It doesn't bother them. For them, it's nothing. So we say these things and people get mad at us. We brought a lawyer in, Carol Hurd, 84 years old. And Sioux Valley had used them at one point, or a bunch of the nations used them at one point. They took the group went to Geneva, and he prepared a submission. And so we had a meeting with him. We showed him our presentation. He said, yeah, he said, I'll teach the case. Uncle Albert here he said, I got a copy of his report that he submitted. He said, I'll make a copy and give it to you. He gave me a copy of his report. Driving down the highway one day. He said, I'll take a look at this thing. Oh, nice cover letter. Then I opened it up. It says, we as Indian people. So I phoned him up. And he got mad at me for questioning them. That's the way these lawyers are. You come to these meetings and they're not meetings with lawyers. Oh, they get mad at you. He said that. You can't argue with them. And he said, I've been doing this for 45 years, he said. represented the Creek, northern Alberta, northern Saskatchewan, the Hopi, Navajo, the Cherokee. Doing this for 45 years, two years. So I said, in all those 45 years, I said, what has it gotten any of them? Didn't say anything. Then he started questioning my education. He says, you know, the stuff you're reading, he says, is not right. He says, when I need something, he says, I have colleagues that have a master's degree in history, master's degree in English. I send it to them. They send it back. He said, do you have a master's degree in history? Do you have a master's degree in English? No. I said, but I can, I said, I have a pretty good understanding of the English language. I said, I can read a sentence. I started like getting sarcastic with them. But I can read a sentence. I said, I can read a paragraph. I said, I can even read a whole page. I said, I can tell you exactly what that means. If you have to take your stuff to somebody with a master's degree in English or a master's degree in history, that's your problem. And then he says, you Dakotas, he says, you Dakotas get off your high horse. He says, they're just idiots.
Can you tell them, like, you know, what visit them to Colorado there, where if everybody was going, then they sent you up to that place to look into what an Indian is and all that? Can you tell them that? They can,
Yeah. What Uncle's talking about is, last year I took my mom and my two daughters went down to Grand Canyon. And on the way back, I've heard stories that we have Dakota stuff from Sioux Valley and Denver. So on the way back, I wanted to stop in there and check it out. So there's, went to that Denver museum, and there's it's a real nice building. You've got a movie theater and a planetarium and all kinds of exhibits. I go to the front there. Where's the Native American? Oh, just go up the escalator here to the second floor, turn right, it's right at the end of the hall. I want to go with my mom. My mom's 71 years old. My auntie, turn down the hallway there. Right out, big letters, Wildlife Halls. I was thinking, if we talk about this, say, like we're animals, treated like animals and that, but to actually see it like that. And I was thinking, no way, they're not going to be that. Sure enough, right on the bottom, North American Indian wildlife, or North American Indian culture, North American wildlife. So when these people, the government officials and the lawyers, I want to get back to the lawyer here. I get back to this lawyer, the lawyers. The lawyers are what they call an officer of the court. They belong to the Canadian government. You might say they represent you, they represent us, but they don't. They represent the Canadian government. That's why they keep trying to pull us back into that Aboriginal world again. Your rights are protected. But if you looked at the case law, what I was telling you earlier, I don't want a case like that. So what the chiefs were doing here, you know, in less than 10 months, we got the Manitoba government to admit that the Dakotas were here first, and that's where this map comes in. I got this map in hand. See that? But it says Seward, Dakota. It comes right across the 49th parallel. We show that to the government officials, to the press, to everybody. Finally, Manitoba acknowledged that we were here first. Dakotas are here first. Dakotas who have treaty with Canada. Dakotas have never surrendered their rights to this title. And then he said, now they want to argue sovereignty. they're asking us how we're sovereign. And they turn it around and say, well, how are you sovereign? You just said we were here first, you just said, you know. And they said, well, under Aboriginal title, Crown title supersedes Aboriginal title. So we've got papers, chiefs have papers, we've got documents from the Canadian government that says the Dakota people do not have Aboriginal title, we do not have Aboriginal rights. We're refugees. And yet, this map here, why this map is so important. This is from 1857, what they call this select committee hearing. Canada, the British were having, well, the future Canadian officials. And they made this map to show where all the native tribes were at that time. John A. Macdonald was one of the guys that was sitting on this committee. John A. Macdonald later becomes the first Prime Minister of Canada. And in those core documents, when we took Canada to court, their documents that they gave us, they said they have no prior record, no prior knowledge of the Dakota ever being resident north of the 49th territory. And yet, this is the map that they used when they were negotiating to become Canada. But I don't know how many of you guys have seen that presentation, but in there we show Canada in 1867. It was all along the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence River. That's where Canada was. Manitoba didn't become a province until 1870. Saskatchewan didn't become a province until 1905. Alberta didn't become a province until 1905. North Dakota didn't become a state until 1889. And according to the government, the Washington government, the way they operate, the only way they can claim territory is if they provide mail service, they provide policing, they provide all these things. They never provided any of that here. And then those select committee hearings, that we have the actual documents. They call them, what they call them is verbatim transcripts. Meaning they recorded every word that was spoken and they have a record of that. That's what comes with this. And then there he said you have to deal with these. You have to deal with this. If you don't, it's going to come back on you in the future. The Canadian government made treaties with the Cree, they made treaties with the Ojibwe, but they never made a treaty with the Dakota. Instead they came up with a lie. They said we're refugees from the United States. And then eventually the lie became truth, according to the government. I did a presentation at the high school, Valley High School, and one of the girls in that class, she already heard this a couple of times already. So she says, just blurts out. She said, "How come we're not learning this in school?" She said. So they pulled out their history book, and there was one side of one page for the Dakota people. A third of it was a picture. The other 2/3 says that we came from the United States, we ran to the United States from Little Bighorn, came into Manitoba. And in just that one paragraph that was written, there was 5 errors in there. But there was no Manitoba in 1862. There was no North Dakota. Little Bighorn didn't happen until 1875. You know, just like that. But this is what the Canadian government did. They made a lie. And then eventually the lie became truth.
There was no North Dakota.
Yeah. And so when we took Canada to court, they never saw any of this. They haven't seen these because they covered them up. They covered them up so good that they didn't even know they existed. And we found these keys. So back to this court. You know, we don't recognize the province. We don't recognize their jurisdiction. they've had a court injunction against us now for, 4 months, almost 5 months now, they never set foot on our property. So if anybody has any questions,
So what are they saying for the court? Well, what is the requirement of the court?
they're asking us how we have sovereignty.
To prepare a report on
Yeah,
sovereignty.
we're gonna prepare all that.
What are they saying? Are they asking us to do or have people that are experts? Going to use experts? What they say?
That's what we're trying to find out exactly what it is that they're asking. But we turned it around and we asked them, well, how do you have sovereignty?
There's always that,
Yeah.
turn things around and they haven't got an answer.
Because what they're going by is Aboriginal law.
Yeah.
That's what they're going by.
So, when you say Aboriginal law, if you're under Aboriginal law, you have to be an Indian, right?
Indian Act.
And what if you're not an Indian, you can't be in the Aboriginal law, right?
That's just the classification that they use. When they came to this land, there was no, the history that they teach, the history that they have. They describe this as paradise. And a lot of them didn't know how to survive, so the natives that were on the East Coast, they shouldn't know how to survive. And then after they started getting more and more of them, that's when they started fighting. Well, that's the, pretty sure most of you have seen that presentation, but it shows clearly on there what happened. And so, now that we're telling the truth, that even the lawyers that we have, they don't even want to use our evidence. They just want to go back to Aboriginal law.
Is that the new lawyer?
All the lawyers are like that.
What about this one from the United States?
Oh, no, he's not like that. There's a reason why these Canadian lawyers are like that is because they swear allegiance to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They can't fight outside of that. When you swear allegiance to the Crown, you're sworn to uphold the Canadian Constitution. If you go against the Canadian government, you're liable for treason. Because they're gonna lose their license. These lawyers, they make average $350, $375, $400 an hour. They're not gonna give that up.
What about that United Nations? Getting some help through that? Who's that, we're talking about Canada?
Yeah, well, that's the reason why we're doing what we're doing. We have to make enough noise that people are going to listen. much as people don't like this cigarette, you know, the Chinese store, that, it's doing it.
You know when this Dakota 38 came up? In 3 days, huh? The whole world. But it changed the whole world, huh? Now, the Dakota here, the lawyers are going to uphold you know, like the Canadian law. Now, the 38 Dakotas, what happened in 3 days, we can make that happen in 1 day all over the world in that time. Did don't come up isolating ourselves, huh? We gotta get out. And she no, Nakatuska talk. We had a sweat last night. Look at talk Sukawa and Kistan. But Korochi go to here. He sang a song. Okay, Nakatuska, they're talking about sovereignty. The Dakota, it's already there. We are not. I understand what so to speak because you couldn't trying to think of way to sit yeah, I figure it's you, Chris. But you know, everything is coming to to the surface. Huh? Not what how long ago was that? A month ago?
The one in Long Plain?
Yeah. A little over a month?
2 months almost.
It changed the whole world, huh? There's over 2,000, what, 2,600 people?
Plus the other file, probably close to 6 now. With the one smooth feather put out, and I can't see the viewers or every once in a while I've seen they're getting close to 5,000 on that end. But they're blocked here in Canada, so as soon as you try to log onto that file or that channel, you get blocked. But I know there's 35 countries who logged on and viewed the movie, saw the pain. A lot of the comments say the same thing. They feel for our people. They talk about reconciliation and us all being equal around this world. We pray for peace. They pray for healing for everybody. But the majority of the people who view the film are touched and are left in tears because it is a sad part of history. So it's just a way of reaching out. But I have reached out and written one letter to the Secretary of the United Nations explaining what is going on and asking for some type of response, which I haven't got. So I am trying to bridge these gaps as well. I know there's a lot of us who are trying to push forward. I just keep praying, asking my relatives to show me the way. There's something new that I'm supposed to do. I'll do it on. Today's a pressure from outside, pressure on Canada.
Anything you know, touch it?
You know what? I had a really good friend who's also a director with AFOA, and she was a county manager working in Canada. She just quit her job. Was trying to get in that back door break again. Also reached out to Wab Canoe to see if he wanted to start sharing it for CBC, and same with one of our own relatives, Gina Smoke. She works at CTV, one of the story editors. So I'm constantly trying to find more people who have that access to the media who are willing to share on our behalf. So that's struggle with it. I mean, I have one tool, and that's a computer that I'm constantly using to try to find addresses, reach out to people. And I'll continue to do it because I feel it's the right thing to do. Eventually I'll find somebody who will open more eyes than I can, but it's trying to find an individual or that group who will say, we'll help, and we'll use our contacts. But, great.
Well, my question is when you talk about sovereignty and provinces talking about we don't have sovereignty, then the question goes back to them. How do you have sovereignty? Because you've only been here since 1870. How can you become sovereign all of a sudden? Years. We've been here thousands and thousands of years. But you know, but on the law side of it, what's the protocol and the procedures of the province? Because province is just a corporation from Canada. So this corporation, what's the protocol and procedures of this corporation challenging another sovereign nation? How can that happen? That's my question. It's supposed to be Canada coming to the table and dealing with us because it's a sovereign issue. But the province well, I know why they're doing that. They're saying that they're charging us individually, so they're not challenging the nation. Yeah, but you try and deal with any one of these people as the nation, you're challenging the nation. And that's what the province is doing. That question, my question, how did the province do it? But the province wants us to drop the charges. I don't want the charges to drop. I needed to be dealt in court. The court will have to say whatever it is, the outcome and the charges. So what I'm saying is what I want to do is, well, I want to, if they're going to charge us individually, then we shouldn't be challenging the province now. We should be charging Mike Connors and the others. Same thing. Charge them individually. That's what we got. We have to discuss this more. How we're going to fight. How I'm going to fight. Because if you want us to use experts, I mean, we're going to use experts more than I have some people in place. But I like to go in there as an expert too. I'll be the Dakota expert because I speak the I understand my law, I understand my territory, I understand my ceremonies. And I'm the one that's going through that, what, the court. So I can go there and go as an expert, and I have to speak my language. And that's their responsibility to have an interpreter. I'm not an interpreter, I'm not an interpreter, what I'm saying. Because that's a nation, that's sovereign. If they're approaching the quotas, then they should have an interpreter. And so far, we've been speaking their language, that's a complete fact. But if we're sovereign, then we have to start speaking our own language to whoever we're going to deal with. That's sovereign. And that's the way I see them sovereign. That's the way we're going to do it in court. Because we already challenged their court and we don't recognize them, their court. We walked out. Even though they talked, the proceeding didn't go on. They just talked and nothing happened. The judge said, I can't give you permanent injunction. You see what the Dakotas did? They walked out. They don't recognize their court. But what I can do is give you an interim injunction, see what you can do with it. But they never used it. Instead, they threatened some more. Throw us in jail, and I said, throw me in jail right now. Knocked off again. But the sovereign part is you really need to understand. The way I see sovereign is when you know your language, you know your land, you know your people, and the spirit of the land. I had this dream, I want to share it. In 2008, when I became an Indian agent chief in council, in January 2008. First week in March, I had this dream. This man came. He had braids and he had leather shirt and pants and walks in. Dakota, he always. I followed him. Then why I go, I look. Always. I read it. Read it. Military alliance, economic alliance, trade alliance, and equality. That is near because of you people, we did that. But back where you're at, he said, where you're at, he said. Treaty people, they reach up here, he said. No, back on the option, the so-called treaty people, back where you're at, he said. They have nothing. You have this. Then he explained more after that. He said, when the first contact of the white man, he said, the British, they asked for a treaty. So in order to give them the treaty, he said, you had to go through our sovereignty, he said, the law of the land, the language of the land, people of the land, and the spirit of the land. If they do those four things, he said, we're going to give it to them. So they did, he said. It took them 100 years to do that. So every British on the Dakota territory spoke the language. They understood the law, the land. They understood the people of the land. And they understood the spirit of the land. When he told me that, I could understand the law of the land, the language of the land, and the people of the land. But it took me a hard time to understand what is the spirit of the land. It took me over a year to understand what the spirit of the land, and it was just simple. That was him that came from 1500 to 2008. Tell me that. That's the spirit of the land, the connection to our grandfathers. And they're all here, he said. They're all here waiting for us to do this. So then I understood the spirit of the land. It's your father and his 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 father down the line. You're connected. You have to connect yourself. They'll come and help you. That's what he said. So I got to understand that. So now I understand sovereignty. But are we going to be sovereign? Or what? That's the question, because in the court we have to be sovereign. I will. I'm going to. And how are we going to help our people be sovereign? It's simple. Very, very simple. Very hard for us to understand that. So the challenge right now is problems. They think they have solved all First Nations. First Nations wars. We're saying we're not. So that's what I'm saying. So with that, I could somebody else speak to I'd like to appreciate one of our Anishinaabe brother entering sovereignty talk here. I was giving him a rough time at the Moxon game. He doesn't take it hard, so that's good. We also have a lot of documents to back up what we're saying, but it hasn't been introduced into court or a judge has seen it. But the other thing too is every court we appear, it's always a different judge. A judge would come in and have to replace the court with a different judge. It's been happening. Nobody wants to deal with this because nobody wants to say, none of the judges want to say, hey, court is solid. Even though they know it's true, they don't want to say it. So the way I think the judges would be comfortable is for them to see the actual documents we have. Because that will help them make the decision. Because without those documents, it's very hard for them to make a decision on this case, because it's like they swore to protect Canada. That's why. But that's why they can't make that decision. But we introduce those documents, then they'll have, they'll use those documents to make a decision, I think.
Oh, good evening. My name's Dennis Maggie. The elders, evening. Ladies and gentlemen, say a few words that you are on the right road. So thank you, supporters and helpers for taking it this way. There was something that a long time ago I was working on when I first got as a leader. I got out of school to ask me in 1978. So what was it about history? And that's probably one of the keys to this whole argument. All the years I tried to get money for the history of Dakota, so I tried to get resources to have our cultural center, I tried to get the real history of our people to be told, and then the government always fought against it. Because they didn't want that history to come out. They didn't want that history told. Got to the point where we need to launch a comprehensive plan. So we started doing that in our own research, a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, trying to raise money to hire researchers. Started ALT, started DAGOs, that became a whole issue. The white man didn't really want us to have any money all those years. Any money that we could control. We wanted that money to be a slot. It has to be health, it has to be education, it has to be, you can't spend nowhere else. Well, let's raise our own money. What could I do? I only have about 100 acres on our reserve. You can't really survive. As Frank talked about surviving. That's what it's all about, surviving. For our health, our future generations. So I'll just walk this way. After a few years, I guess I'm getting up there in years. Working with my brother, our community. Thought about my great grandfather who I had seen when I was young. John Patrick, grandmother Laura Patrick, my dad, Mr. Patrick. They're all ahead of me. Now I look behind me. It seems I'm in that line next, and I see my sons and daughters and grandchildren. And what did I do in this life? I thought, try to make it better somehow, some future they can be proud of, something to look forward to. So looking at our history, we tried to do that independently. We did go ahead and begin launching a comprehensive plan. Because we said we always were here. We always were in Canada for the people. We always were. I used to remember coming to meetings and listening to Eli Taylor saying that the land went as far as Niagara Falls. I thought he was just saying that some misinformation of what the government got scared of me because of things I was doing in casinos and like one of the guys that negotiated gas rebates in 1988. But it was still a temporary deal, because at that time, at the framework commission, we had our own jurisdiction, recognized to yourself not to anybody, right, and Indian. Then in 85, I fought for shocking people help, you know, and that led to, at that time, to ELT, led to First Nation Gaming Authorities in Manitoba. 1980s and 78, I fought for education. All my kids are at board for the school division because a lot of them were failing. Open the door, again, a lot of media attacked me, a lot of media said bad things. That opened the door to local control of their own education system. But it was unfunded. This day still is, but at least we fought for the north at that time. In the 1980s, we pushed with the child welfare, law and control of that. It was supposed to be a 5-year deal. It was supposed to be for our own federal child welfare, or our own First Nation law to be recognized. But it's somehow gone backwards to provincial control. So through the years, we fought for these things, and we fought for that Constitution to then clearly say that it recognizes the inherent right of self-determination. And we had it. We had it from each state. And we dropped the ball. We said we're not going to negotiate. Everybody said thinks it's a great victory, but we had an opportunity. We didn't seize that moment. We put that in the Constitution to protect our sovereignty, our history. So now we're locked into the courts. Because there was a lawyer that was advising that time, the Grand Chief, Bill Fontaine. The lawyer wanted us to fight in court all the time for the recognition of any bit of rights you have to domesticate us. So we said these treaties, our sovereignty is international. We go back to talk about John Page and his dad was sitting on him. Big dad was joking. He signed the treaty in 1851 in Minnesota. We have unfinished business to relate to. For our people, what is the real history? I'm saying, what is the real history of our people? We were here before there was a Canada, before there was the United States, Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. So after the government got realized it's a multi-billion dollar comprehensive plan for moving, it would stop a lot of development in Western Canada. They moved to get rid of you. So they demonize you in the media. Today I have no criminal record. They demonize you and they try to say you're a monster. I think that a lot of people understand that Terry was going to go maybe Frank might be going to be coming up there, I'm pretty sure. That's one of the issues is you've got to keep it going. You know, they kick me out. You might pick up Frank, you might pick out Terry. This group, it's a historical movement that is happening today. It's going to address a lot of important things for the Dakota people the way they see it. It has to be, the history has to be told. We're almost there. We look at the history of what the left has achieved, and they passed special federal legislation. I'm really proud of that. They passed special federal legislation to get rid of it. So that could be, I think that might be the last time we passed special federal legislation. But that was a deal made by the Premier of Manitoba and made by the Minister Bob Moe at that time. Because I was pushing Dakota land. The history was, we're not refugees. Recently, my brother and I went to Saskatchewan and we're arguing on our grandfather's land, earlier lands there. So over there they call us Canadian nationals. Over here they call refugees. But we know who we are. But too bad a lot of our people fall into that. Say, no, we were always, Sioux Lookout, I went to Sioux Lookout, how come they got Sioux Lookout there, Sioux Arrows, how can you get those names? What does that mean? That's where Dakota people are going to trade, they're going in their territory, up to, Niagara Falls to trade. So our territory, I went back 100, who was here 100 years, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000? Who was here 10,000, 13,000 years ago? That's how long this territory. Like I said, I want Terry's here because his uncle said that as well. All the else told us that. So that's the kind of history that has to be told. It's not being told. The courts, as you say, have those maps you have, all those things, all the history of the elders, it needs to be recorded and understanding. Presented by the courts, hopefully, frankly, do that. On our behalf. Hopefully, we keep it going, if we try to get rid of it, we got rid of need. So how can we keep it going? How can we organize ourselves to keep it going? It's an important battle or something.